Previously, on our last class, we introduced the concept of libraries, which are functions created by someone else so that we can import them into our own programming for faster results. Before we begin, make sure you made a private comment for 7.5. Today's lesson is 7.6, where we will investigate libraries a bit closer. Our prompt today is focused on sharing libraries. These functions have parameters and return values. Why do you think it's important to use parameters and return values when writing code for other people to use? You might say parameters and return values help communicate what the code is supposed to do and make functions more flexible to be used in a variety of situations. Let's begin the activity. Play around with Unit 7, Lesson 6, Bubble 2. Try different inputs to see how this app works. When we look at the code, there's not much in the terms of lines of code, but the on event is doing quite a bit. It is pulling several pieces of data from a library and updating them on the screen, mostly images and text. Let's look at the actual library this app is using, called State Library. Mouse over to see the documentation in code.org. To actually open this specific library, click on the Manage Libraries to find State Library. What is actually happening is a few functions are being called. When the library is referenced in the app code, it is not showing all the details specifically in the app because it is packaged in a library. For example, the abbreviation function loops through a list of U.S. states and pulls the abbreviation into a new list and changes the capitalization. Similar functions loop through image list, state seals, etc. So what are the benefits of hiding all the code for filtering that dataset in a library? Well, you can use the project code, and you can see that it's neat and organized because it's very short. And what the information does the user need to know in order to use the library functions? Well, actually, the end user does not have to know all the inner workings of the functions. They just need to know the documentation for the functions so they can call them correctly and understand what will be returned. Now let's look at Bubble 3. In this app, what the end user types into the input box is rearranged into PigLatin in the display box. For those unfamiliar with PigLatin, it's a fake language in which the first letter of each word is moved to the end with A added. It is simply altering the string of letters. When we look at the documentation, we see what library is available. Now let's test the functions. Add a console log to the end of the program and call a function. The example given deals with the first letter. Now run the output. Then add the additional console log statements to see if your output runs as expected. What makes a good library function? What does this help us know? Testing allows the end user to understand the behavior of a function. It is helpful for debugging. For example, if I call a function whose documentation indicates that it will return the first letter of a string, and instead it returns the last letter of a string, I know that there is a problem with the library function and will not help my code. Let's review algorithms. Since most of our time has been writing your own code or modifying it, now you have the ability to build more complex functions by using libraries of things others have created. Although it could be viewed as cheating, in reality this is how professional programmers work, especially on large complicated apps like Facebook or Fortnite. A note on procedural abstraction. This is the process that allows someone to use a block of code without knowing how every detail works. The process of breaking down a computer program into manageable subprograms is called modularity. Your takeaways for today's lesson is that we learned how to create a library, how to use a library, and how to test one in our own code in code.org. Your assignment is very easy today. Make a private comment in Google Classroom that explains why programmers use libraries in the first place.